This is the end-to-side vascular anastomosis instructional video. The first step is to control and occlude the artery. We will treat the native vessel on the simulation model as an artery. Start by wrapping vessel loops, both proximally and distally, around this artery using lower forceps. And then after occluding this, then you just hold this in place with the hemostat and repeat the same thing on the opposite side. At this point, we're going to clamp the artery with DeBakey clamps, both proximally and distally. This adds extra inflow and outflow protection. The next step is the arteriotomy. To make the arteriotomy, take an 11 blade and a DeBakey forceps and gently lift the anterior portion of the vessel away from the back wall of the vessel. Create a small incision with the 11 blade, careful not to back wall into the posterior wall of the artery. Then take your Potts scissors and extend the arteriotomy. Again, take care not to damage the posterior vessel wall. You can extend this arteriotomy both proximally and distally with the Potts scissors. Potts scissors are designed not to back wall the vessel, so this is important that you make most of the arteriotomy with these. Next, let's prepare the graft. Create an S-shaped incision. This should have a wide, blunted toe. What that means basically is that it's cut so that the toe is slightly thicker than the heel. This is because the toe is one of the main places where the anastomosis leaks. You can use a hemostat to approximate the S-shaped incision on the graft. You can then use an 11 blade to follow this curve along the edge of the graft. Ensure that the graft edge is the same length as the arteriotomy. A stay suture can be placed on the lateral vessel wall prior to the anastomosis to evert the vessel edge and allow for better access. This isn't a necessary step, but it helps when suturing. Now we're ready to start the anastomosis. Okay, this is a big picture view of our anastomosis. We're going to start the anastomosis at the heel of the graft. We're going to work our way about 2/3 of the way along one edge and then start along the other edge, go past the toe, and then tie the knot at the 2/3 point of the first edge. The reason why we do this again is because one of the main places where this anastomosis leaks is at the toe. Therefore, we won't tie these knots together at the toe. We'll slightly offset it. Grasp the needle in the center with the castros. Load the needle at 45 degrees forward facing. Start by securing the graft at the heel of the anastomosis and placing 3 square knots. Remember to place bites inside out on the artery and outside in on the graft. Again, if this anastomosis is going to leak, it'll be at the heel or the toe. So securing these 3 square knots is very important to secure the graft in place and to prevent leakage. Then, with one of these sutures, work your way from heel to toe with a continuous running suture. Notice the hand motions for each bite. Start by pronating, placing the needle perpendicular to the vessel, and drive the needle through by supinating the wrist. Remember, the bites should be placed approximately 1 millimeter apart. We're demonstrating doing a four-handed suture. You can do this on both sides of the graft by changing your orientation. Alternatively, we'll show you on the other side that you can use a backhanded suture instead of changing your orientation. Remember that the native vessel in this simulation is the artery, so you always want to go from in to out on the artery. The reason that we suture from in to out on the artery is to not disturb any internal arterial plaques. On the graft, each side should be equal. However, on the artery, it's very important that instead of disturbing these plaques, they are instead punctured so to secure them to the vessel wall, if at all. Approximately 50% through the heel to the toe length on this lateral side, double check and make sure that the remaining graft length is similar to the remaining arteriotomy length. If the graft is longer at this point, trim the toe of the graft to match the arteriotomy length. Plan on suturing about 2/3 of the total heel to toe length on this side before moving to the other side. Using the other needle of the double-sided suture, complete the other side of the arteriotomy from heel to toe. The suture should be placed approximately 1 millimeter apart. Again, this is demonstrating the backhanded suturing on the opposite side of the graft. Alternatively, you could change your position and place these sutures in a four-handed motion. When suturing around this anastomosis, when you're in the middle of the arteriotomy and the graft, the suture should be at a perpendicular angle to the longitudinal axis of the artery. However, when you're at the heel or the toe, it's important to place a suture more radially. This is a good picture of what I mean by that, meaning that at these heel and toe places, you need to put the suture so that it takes more domain on the artery and the graft. Therefore, there's more artery wall and graft holding the suture in place, preventing leakage at these two critical places in the anastomosis. You'll see in this demonstration that instead of completing the anastomosis at the toe, we've slightly offset it so that the sutures are tied together slightly laterally to the toe. This is done mostly because the biggest risk for leak is at the heel and the toe. So by offsetting knot, the anastomosis will be more secure at the toe. At this point, you can use a nerve hook to snug up or tighten the suture so that they are securely laid down on both sides of the anastomosis. At this point, you would place 8 to 10 square knots to finish your anastomosis. Let's go over some tips and tricks for unassisted performance. Make sure that the stay sutures are placed on both sides of the artery wall. This creates more access for the vessel. Secure the graft to the model using snaps for better stabilization. It's essential to use a nerve hook at the end to even tension between bites.